It's a good day to have a good day. Hello, everybody. My name's Cece Ray. Thanks for joining me here at Break the Dish, where we break the news and dish out the tea. We are recapping The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 6, Episode 17. That's right. It is part 1 of the reunion. Let me just say this. My thoughts of the reunion. My thoughts of part 1 of the reunion. Wow. I don't know what is going on with Lisa Barlow, but she is definitely suffering with the double D's. Deflection and delusion. I mean, I literally had to watch this reunion several times because I was trying to figure out what was spewing out of her mouth, which direction she was, the conversation was going. Like, have I been watching the same season? Am I watching the same reunion she's in? Maybe I'm suffering with a delusion. Like, seriously. We're going to get into it. But before we do, you know what to do. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because here we break the dish. We are recapping The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 6, Episode 17. That's right. Part 1 of the reunion. First, let's talk about the ladies' looks. I think all the ladies looked beautiful. Whitney was in a pale pink. She went back to being blonde. Mary was in a light green dress. Not quite the style I would choose, but it suited Mary. Lisa Barlow was in the same cut style dress we've seen her in before, in like a purple. Heather was in a dark green dress, beautiful. But what was going on with her hair? I mean, she looked like she literally climbed out of bed, threw her hair up, and put the dress on. It was weird. Angie was in a bright red dress, but it looked really good on her. Bronwyn had extensions put in her hair, so now her hair is long. She was in a yellow flowing dress. I have heard a lot of people say they didn't like this look on her. I absolutely loved it on her. And I have to tell you, I don't know if it's the long hair, but she looked very peaceful, like not so stressed. You know what I mean? My favorite was Meredith. She had I don't know if you want to call it a dark burgundy or dark purple, but I liked her dress. I liked her hair. I liked her makeup. She was my favorite. So the reunion started off, and I mean, just like that, it started off hot. You know how Andy goes around and, does his introductions. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Well, when it's time for Meredith turns around and says, Whitney, at BravoCon, you said you wanted to clear the air, so I'm going to give you the floor to do that. Whitney starts explaining how at BravoCon she had way too much to drink, and she had said to Meredith that she was sorry how things, took off on the wrong foot, but she really wants to be your friend. But you lied about me. Meredith's like, I didn't lie about you. She's like, yes, you did. I didn't retract anything that I had said before. And Meredith's like, you lied about me. This is like going back and forth, by the way, for a minute or two. But the bottom line was that Whitney's like, look, I'm not taking anything back that I said about the plane or about your life. And Meredith kind of leans to Lisa, who's sitting next to her. And she's like, she probably can't even remember our conversation. She was so drunk. And Whitney's like, I remember our entire conversation. And Meredith's like, Whitney, your husband had to pick you up and carry you back to the room. You were so drunk. And Whitney's like, yeah, I know. And I even apologized to Andy for that. So that's how the reunion took off. And if you see me looking down, it's because I took so many notes. So from that point, we go into Lisa Barlow. Now, Andy says, we're going to get right into it here. So, he's giving you like little snippets from the season. And they end it with Heather saying to Lisa, no one's riding your back hard for you because you're a risky friend. And so Andy says to Heather, do you still think that Lisa's a risky friend? She's like, yeah, I do. He's like, why? She's like, well, you know, she'll fight to the death. It's either her way or the highway. And that's what makes her a risky friend. Well, Lisa Barlow right away is like, well, if I'm a risky friend, then you're a snaky friend. What? So Heather says, okay, Lisa, give me one example of how I'm a snaky friend. Well, Lisa starts talking about how she's a snaky friend because, Heather thought it was funny that the story came out that Todd was making out with some girl and farting the whole time. And then she told Angie to say something because she thought it would be funny. Okay, that had nothing to do with Heather being a snaky friend to Lisa. She might have been a snaky friend to Bronwyn. I mean, because while they're talking about this, Bronwyn doesn't look too happy about it. But that had nothing to do with Lisa. Deflection. So then Andy says to Mary, do you think Lisa's a risky friend? Mary's like, absolutely. Right away, Lisa then is like, I would like you to cite some examples. Doesn't even look at Mary. She's like saying this like in the atmosphere somewhere. I would like you to cite some examples. So Mary says, for instance, you think that, everybody has, you have such a different life than everyone else when your life is no different than anyone else's, and Meredith jumps in and is like, oh no, I think everybody's life is different. I mean, I know my life is different compared to anybody else's. And Whitney starts pointing, like this, like, look at these two, you know. And so that was kind of funny. And why she did that is because the whole like you're a snaky friend thing, Lisa Barlow accused Angie and Heather of tag teaming, and that they were codependent in their reactions, which both of them are looking at Lisa like, what? I'm telling you, Lisa Barlow. I don't know what's going on. And so now they're talking about the camping trip. And first off, Whitney didn't think that she was working. She's like, I'm sorry, I didn't think you were working. Lisa has never missed a filming. She's never missed a cast trip. Well, let's be real here. Okay. And she also said that she really thought that she was in Miami recovering from having a procedure done on her face, because one minute she's telling someone she's doing business with Ben Affleck, and the next minute she's in Miami posting a picture of herself with no makeup on, which Lisa Barlow does not post pictures with no makeup on. And Whitney didn't say it snide or anything. Matter of fact, she turned around and said, "You looked beautiful." Um, but she's like, "That's why I didn't think you were working." Now not Meredith, Lisa goes to get a picture out, right away. She's like, I'm gonna show her, you know. But the crazy thing, it didn't really happen in this little second, but the crazy thing was is eventually she does show a picture of her and Ben Affleck. But if you listen carefully, okay, she's showing the picture to Andy, and you hear Andy say, "That's an old picture." And if I'm not mistaken, I think she turns around and says, "I can find a better one," or something like that. But when you think about the episode itself, the first thing that Lisa does tell Angie is, "I'm not coming on the trip because I don't want to spend one night with a pathological liar." And she's referring to Bronwyn. And then she says, "Plus I have work, with Ben and Blake." And Angie's like, "Ben and Blake, uh-huh, remember that?" Yeah. Um, so then, you know, the, they're still talking about the camping trip. Andy asked Bronwyn, like, "Why did you feel the need to bring up all of Lisa's legal issues?" And Bronwyn's like, "Look, it's not like I was digging in, trying to find stuff on her. I mean, she always has something to say about each one of our lives." She's like, "But this was literally in the newspaper, these lawsuits." And so Andy says, "What is the update on your lawsuits, Lisa?" And Lisa says, "I have one that's pending, and I have one in litigation, and the rest have all been dismissed." And Bronwyn's like, "They've been dismissed because you're either paying these people back or you're in the process of paying them back." Lisa's like, "It's not the same as your criminal cases." And Bronwyn's like, "I don't have any criminal cases." Now, then right away, Lisa turns around and says, "I had 5 lawsuits and they've all been dismissed, and that's a win." Okay. So as of today, Lisa has 1 lawsuit. They tried to have it dismissed, but the court said, "Nope, there's enough evidence here and we are going forth with it." And currently it is in the discovery phase. Now, there has been other lawsuits that have been dismissed, but not because the court ruled on it. Okay? It was because they either paid the people what they owed, or they made some sort of arrangement with the person to pay them. Like one was dismissed without prejudice, which apparently means that this person can bring it back into court if they need to. You see what I'm saying? So I guess if they stopped paying or didn't follow through with their agreement, then they can bring this lawsuit back to court. I just find it interesting that Lisa is like first in like within 60 seconds of each other. She's explaining how one's in litigation and one's pending, and then all of a sudden they're all dismissed and she won all the cases. I mean, delusional. Um, so then Andy says to Bronwyn, asks her, like they had a comment from a viewer that said, just because the case is sealed doesn't mean you can't talk about it. You just don't want to. So she explains to Andy, "You're right. Just because it's sealed, it's not like I can't talk about it. But I have learned my lesson. And the person that had it sealed, I'm not going to bring their business to this group. So Andy asked Bronwyn, can you tell us like a general nature of it? She said, well, this happened at uh, a place that I was employed in. It had nothing to do with me and the person it was against. Those charges were dismissed. He said, but on Reddit, they also said that you charged $100,000 fraudulent. Wait a minute. Am I saying that right? She charged $100,000 basically on a corporate credit card, and Todd had to like take care of everything. She's like, no, that never happened, and I do know that some people are assuming that when they heard that had to do with the case that was sealed, but it doesn't. So she cleared that up. Okay. Then they start talking about the truce that her and Lisa made about how they weren't going to be speaking about their husbands. And Bronwyn's like, yeah, we did make a truce, and I have held to my end. But all the way up to that reunion, Lisa has consistently talked about my husband. She goes, even at BravoCon, I had a fan send me a video of Lisa talking to a group of Bravo fans about my husband. And they show you the video. Lisa's like, it's a lie. Girl, do you think we're stupid? We're watching it. Hello? Um, So then, out of the blue, Lisa's like, beautiful speech. What is she talking about? I'm serious. Delusional. Um, so, she's saying it's a lie. She didn't talk. I mean, they're giving you like, little things here and there throughout the season of how she continued to talk about Todd. And then, of course, she also at one point, Lisa was like, well, I was going to talk about him after he said he wouldn't, you know, pee on my head if it was on fire. But as Bronwyn said, you didn't know anything that he said that when they were in Greece or anything, which is true. I mean, she has continued to talk about this man. Um, and then, they're going back to how, um, Whitney thought that, she had work done. And Angie had said a comment like, I don't appreciate you talking to people saying basically like, I would look like Angie too if I had a whole bunch of Botox and fillers and stuff like that. And Lisa, so Andy asked Lisa, like, what have you done, and she's like, she didn't say she didn't have fillers. She said she doesn't like how they feel. Okay. Also, she said, but I do love threads. Well, I mean, Mary's expression, she kind of looks at her like, what? Um, and then she starts to continue on and says, but, I don't judge myself. Angie's expression, her eyes get big and she's like, she whispers to herself, what is happening? I'm asking the same thing. What is happening? And then she's like, but I don't like the fact of everybody making digs about me having glam, I just don't think I do makeup well, that's all. Okay. Can we think back a couple seasons when she was at the Trixie Motel? Everybody was going to dress up in drag and do their own makeup. And this girl had a complete meltdown because she couldn't use her own glam. And then when she came out, she looked normal. She didn't dress in drag. You're right, Lisa Barlow. You don't judge yourself. Um, And then Andy starts asking Angie about the Arby's advertisement she did. And, first Lisa did one with Wendy's. And he says to Angie it was trolling just a little bit. And Angie was like, no, I could see, how you would think that. She's like, but listen, they approached me. They like what I said when I said, you do French fries and I do franchise. And she's like, they approached me and I'm going to take advantage of it. Lisa Barlow was like, I'm so happy that everybody can benefit off of my wings. What is going on here? I mean, seriously. So then Angie turns around and says, you mean like, well, first Whitney says to Lisa, are you trying to say that we can't get campaigns without you? And Bronwyn's like, yeah, are you trying to say that she's getting work off of your back? And Angie's like, no, let's compare it to like the way you did an advertisement for a partner of mine that I've carried their products for 30 years in my salon. And she's talking about, and I might be pronouncing this wrong, but I think it's pronounced keratis. It's that really good treatment for your hair. Lisa Barlow turns around and says, well, I didn't know you did any of it. I didn't even know you had that. Everybody looks at Lisa like she's got two heads. I was doing the same thing. I mean, Angie has brought this stuff to like every event. I think she even gave some to Brittany for her hair. I mean, what is going on here? And then Andy explains to all the ladies that it's the 100th episode, which let's give that an applause here. 100 episodes is definitely something to be proud of. He was asking the different ladies, did you think you would get this far? And, and, Heather starts explaining how, when she started Salt Lake, listen, she took it on the chin, and she did. She took it on the chin. I mean, people were talking about her. They were body shaming her. She was not financially well off, emotionally well off. She was just leaving the church at the time, I believe. And, but she stuck it out because she knew that this was an opportunity that she was not going to pass up. And look where it's taken her life. I mean, she's written 2 books. She was the executive producer of the docuseries on the Mormon Church. So, she's bought 2 homes. She's putting all her children through college. A lot to be proud of. She's worked hard for it too. Andy then says to Mary, when she first started the show, a lot of people really focused on her backstory, which was marrying her grandmother's husband, and she went from that to basically like hating everybody in the cast to now everybody loving her and her loving everybody. And he's like, what's changed, And she said, it's not that I hated everybody, but I didn't feel like I was part of the group. She's like, matter of fact, the only person that made me feel that I was part of the group was Meredith. She said, but, over time, I started seeing the beauty in each one of these women, and I kind of fell in love with them. Now, I just want to put this out here. I'm not going to get into it right now, but if you have not had the chance to watch the documentary on Mary and her church, you need to do it. It is extremely eye-opening. I do like Mary on the show. I didn't like her in the beginning of Salt Lake, that's for sure. But I like her now. Uh, but after watching that documentary, I feel as though somebody, a PR team or somebody, because they knew it was coming out, it had already been filmed, um, probably said, you need to do like a 180 change and make the fans like completely fall in love with you to the point that when this documentary comes out, nobody believes it because it's extremely eye-opening. I do know they're going to be touching on it a little bit in the reunion. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, make sure you see it before the next reunion because it's definitely not the story that we were given when Salt Lake City started. Let's just put it that way. Okay. Um, so after that, we then have Ditzy joining us. You know who I'm talking about. Ditzy Brittany. And Ditzy Brittany comes in with an emotional support stuffed teddy bear. How old is this woman? And yes, of course, it talks with Jared's voice in it. He says something like, I love you, Brittany. I always will, no matter what happens, even though, whatever happens on the show. She's like, he loves me. Oh, boy. Thank God she's got talent. And she really does have talent. She's extremely talented because she's definitely not playing with a full deck there. Andy starts talking about how the first time in Bravo where the Housewives franchise goes with Below Deck, he's asking the ladies what they thought. Heather brought up a really good point. Heather was like, we are so used to cameras being around that we forgot that they were shooting their own show. And Andy's like, are you kind of worried to see, when Below Deck comes out, their viewpoint? And all the ladies were like, no, we love the food. We were good guests. I am kind of curious how that's going to go because I'm thinking every guest thinks that. We find out that Whitney is the one that packed the cucumber. Of course, it was Whitney. But I do like the backstory. She says that right before they boarded on board the yacht, they were at this little market, and she sees this cucumber, and she was going to put it in Heather's bag as a joke, so that when they unpacked the bags, it would be in Heather's bag. But it backfired because they didn't have time, and it wound up coming out of Whitney's bag. So that's who packed the cucumber. The mystery's over. Then, Andy asks Bronwyn about being late to the trip. Now, right before the trip, apparently there was like a headline that came across X that said, she had a criminal past. And Bronwyn said everybody in the cast knew about it because they were all tagged in it. But the real eye-opener is that from that, the headlines then read after she was on board that she arrived late for the cast trip because of these headlines. So she knows that somebody on that yacht put this headline out there, and she thinks it's either Brittany or Lisa, and she doesn't think it's Brittany. So the odds are in Lisa's favor there. And, of course, you see that, well, we've seen this over since Salt Lake started, actually, that everyone has always said that Lisa is the source for putting stories out there. And Lisa right away is like, I don't have time to put stories out. I run several companies. And Heather says, doesn't take that long. I mean, basically, it's like pushing a button. And she's like, well, I wouldn't have done that anyway. I was having the time of my life. What? You were having the time of your life? So let me get this right. I think you pretty much had an argument with most of the cast on board. Um, at one point, you're sitting on the outside of the yacht crying to your husband. Um, why does everybody hate me? Why do they say such mean things about me? And you were having the time of your life? Make sure I don't go on a trip with you, Lisa Barlow. Um, and, you know, while Bronwyn's talking about how she thinks that Lisa's the source, um, Lisa and Meredith start whispering. So Andy catches on to this. And right away, he's like, Meredith, did, did you believe these allegations? She's like, well, I never really tracked it. I heard there were a few, but that's about it. He's like, well, I was wondering because the two of you were whispering. And they both were like, oh no, it has nothing. We weren't talking about that. It had nothing to do with Brahman. We were just saying that, if we need to bring something up later, we will. We're making a note of it. Well, Heather jumped on that bandwagon. She was like a tag team? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So is this like a tag team? Lisa's like, I don't need a tag team. I can defend myself. I only speak for myself. What is she talking about? All season. She's basically not only spoken for Meredith, but I mean, these two have had their backs consistently. I've said this through the whole season. What is going on? And then Heather says, well, if you don't have anything to worry about, then why do you have 6 attorneys and cybersecurity and all this? And, Lisa's like, I am federally regulated. Okay, now I get that part because she does own a tequila business. She also owns, apparently, allegedly, Lux Marketing. So Heather starts questioning her. Listen, I don't know what Lux Marketing is actually. Like, I don't know how you make millions a year off of Lux Marketing. Is it because you're into event planning? Like, I don't understand. And she's like, you were there. Lisa says to Heather, you were there when, we were when, we had a company with the Bella twins. And you hear Heather turn around and say, yeah, I was there, but, you're no longer even friends with them. Well, as soon as she says that, Lisa's like, you're disgusting. Questioning me about how I make my money. You're disgusting. And then out of the blue, Lisa looks at Bronwyn and she's like, where do you make your money? I mean, Todd said that all you do is spend his money. Bronwyn didn't say anything about her company. I mean, this chick is deflecting upon deflecting. So, then she starts explaining, that I do big things with big people and I'm a big deal. And so I have to say that I looked into Lux Marketing and all of the social media with Lisa Barlow. So Lux Marketing is supposed to be a company to, build brands. Okay. For somebody that does that, then listen, I'm a content creator. I'm not a guru of content creating, but I do create content. Nothing's been updated on most of the social media or the websites. All the events that have been planned, at least the photographs of them, all are for Vita Tequila. Um, I mean, she even has Wolf on there, which was, remember, her son's like hair stuff, which, by the way, they don't even have anymore. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Just saying. Um, but she got extremely defensive when Heather was asking. So then, I think Andy tries to reel it back in, and he's like, well, Angie, you've known Lisa for a long time. Do you think she's the source? And she's like, it's funny you ask me that because, I thought that Lisa and I were friends. And she reaches back behind her and she's got this scroll. And it's so funny too because she starts describing the scroll. It's a beautiful scroll on a metal stand. I almost feel like she was making it a point so that maybe Andy would, like, I don't know, put it in the clubhouse or something. She said, but if you take that scroll, you'll notice that the person trolling me, if you look in your phone, you'll see it's Lisa's phone number. And everyone's like, what? And then Lisa Barlow is like, do you want to talk about what's on your phone? What? And that's where it ends. No joke, that's where it ends. Of course, they're going to leave us on a cliffhanger. But I know you've heard me say several times, what's going on? What is going on, Lisa Barlow? I mean, seriously, throughout this entire reunion, she has lied, deflected. She is being delusional. I mean, she's literally, like, even to the point of Bronwyn saying, a fan sent me a video with you talking about my husband. We're all watching the video. So listen up, Lisa. Lisa, come close. Barlow. Lisa Barlow, listen up. The Bravo fans, the Bravoverse, we are not idiots. We have eyes, we have ears, we have brains. We are watching this video in front of us, and you turn around and say, it's a lie? Okay. Yep. Lisa Barlow, suffering with delusion and deflection at its finest. That was the theme of this entire reunion. I'm serious. Like I said before, I had to watch this reunion several times just to figure out what was coming out of Lisa's mouth and which way she was directing the conversation. Because I'm telling you, if you ask Lisa Barlow, why did you say the sky was blue? She would respond with, I had lunch at McDonald's today. Like, what is going on? That's the theme I'm giving Reunion Part 1. What is going on? But what did you all think? I loved it. I love this cast. I really do. Each one is so different, each housewife, and I really do like it. I think it's going to get interesting. Of course, we're definitely going to be touching base about the plane situation. I mean, that took up half the season. And I have to tell you, it was kind of interesting because Meredith Marks was on Two Teas in a Pod. And number one, she spilled the beans that one of the cast members got so drunk they had to be hospitalized. The other thing that she spilled was about Heather Gay. and Monica Garcia was in on this too on one of her postings about how, you know, Heather apparently had asked Meredith to maybe like give her dirt or help her with dirt against Lisa, and she wanted no part of it, and she said no. And then all of a sudden, Meredith has substance abuse. She freaked out on the plane, et cetera, et cetera. And Monica is saying the same thing happened to her, which was like Heather Gay, get this, contacted Von Teese and wanted them to basically print these receipts so that against Jen Shaw, so that Heather could turn around and be like, Jen, I just saw Von Teese posted this. Like, what's this about? And when Von Teese said no, let Heather do her own dirty work, look what happened. Now, I find it interesting that Heather's also the one that found out that Monica was part of Von Teese. Think about that one. I'll leave you with that thought. But you know how it goes. Make sure you leave a comment below. Let's start a conversation. And before you do, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because here we break the dish.